Then there is Iraq. The president said the other day that the biggest regret of his presidency was the failure of intelligence leading up to the invasion of Iraq. What responsibility, at the time you were National Security Advisor, what responsibility do you feel for that failure? And if you had known then what we know now, that there were no weapons of mass destruction, would you still have recommended going into Iraq?
Well, this was a very dangerous regime, and we thought they had a more active weapons of mass destruction program than they had. And Chris, we can go back and try to do the what if, but the fact is, at the time, we believed that that Saddam Hussein had reconstituted his biological and chemical weapons program and was likely making progress on his nuclear program. And that was the assessment of the intelligence community. Now, we have reformed the way that information gets to principals. And if I had it to do over again, yes, I'd have the system in place that we have now, not the system that we had then. But this system of alternative views that are put forward in a more a crisper and clearer way is important to understanding intelligence. But across the world, people believed Saddam Hussein was hiding his weapons of mass destruction program. He had used weapons of mass destruction. We had found a nuclear program that was more advanced than we thought in 1991. And so while it's fine to go back and say, what might we have done differently, the truth of the matter is we don't have that luxury, and we didn't at the time.
The president does say, though, it is his biggest regret as National Security Advisor, somebody who was marshaling the intelligence. I know you weren't in charge of it, and was making recommendations, running the national security process. Does it pain you that we went to war under what turned out to be not false, but mistaken premises?
Of course. I would give anything to be able to go back and to know precisely what we were going to find when we were there. But that isn't the way that these things work. And I still believe that the overthrow of Saddam Hussein is going to turn out to be a great strategic achievement, not just for the Bush administration, but for the United States of America. Because now, in the place of a country that has long been at the center of Middle East politics as a bulwark against Iran, the only problem was a murderous dictator who killed his own people and put them in mass grave, who attacked his neighbors twice, caused millions of deaths in wars in the region, dragged us into war 3 times, and sought and used weapons of mass destruction. You now have a young, democratic, multi-ethnic, multi-confessional Iraq that has just signed an historic agreement with the United States establishing a long-term relationship, as well as a strategic forces agreement to allow American forces to help them finish the job. And it's going to be friendly to the United States. That's a trade up. And you now have an Iraq that is at the center of the Middle East, a bulwark against Iran, without the tremendous downsides that came with the murderous and aggressive regime of Saddam Hussein. And so in terms of the strategic position in the Middle East, this Iraq is going to be at the core of a different kind of Middle East, and one that will be safer ultimately for the United States.
This may well be the final interview we do with you as Secretary of State. And over the years, you've been a good sport about playing a lightning round with us where we ask quick questions and you give quick answers. So let's do it one last time. This will be a tough one to get into a quick answer. Did Donald Rumsfeld mismanage the Iraq War in the beginning?
Oh, I think the Iraq War in the beginning we did very well.
I'm talking about the occupation.
I don't think we had the right structure. I'll be very, very, very blunt. We tried in Afghanistan to use a kind of UN structure with countries adopting ministries. We tried in Iraq to give it to a single department, the Department of Defense. That's why the President has now said that we need a civilian response corps that can do those activities, but clearly we didn't have the right structure.
And is that Donald Rumsfeld's responsibility?
No, I take responsibility for that too. We just didn't have the right structure.
Is it true that during the first term he wouldn't return your phone calls as National Security Advisor?
No, absolutely not. Simply not true.
I mean, there have been reports that he wouldn't return.
I know, and I don't know where they come from. I talk to Don at least once or twice a day. And
probably more than you wanted.
So I just don't know where that comes from.
A couple of last things we want to get in